Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Late Night Table Talk. I'm Eric Yurko, and I'm going to be your host again this evening. It's about midnight in London, so we should probably get started. Joining me tonight is Gates Dowd, Marketing and Event Coordinator for Leader Games. But before she joins us, I just want to take the opportunity to thank you all again for watching Late Night Table Talk. As I've mentioned in previous and future episodes, this is sort of our pre-season, and we're really just floating the concept to see if it's something that y'all want to see, as well as testing the waters with guests, with the show format, and other such stuff. If there's things that you'd like to see on the show, or people you'd like to see us talk to, please feel free to leave a note in the comments, and we'll see what we can do. I want to take a little bit of time to talk about a topic that I'm pretty interested in, which is licensed games and games which feature IPs from outside the board gaming sphere. Now you'll notice that, yes, the Leader Games titles behind me do not have any licensed games, but thankfully I brought more for this specific topic, like the Bruce Lee Unmatched game and other such titles. So I think one thing that I've at least thought about these sorts of games is that coming from more of a video game focused sphere, I had always suspected them of being a little bit shovelware-y, in the sense that when I was growing up, a lot of video games that were based off of popular TV, popular movies, or etc. were pretty shovelware. This goes all the way back to the video game crash in the 80s when they pumped out so many copies of E.T. that they literally had to fill landfills with them. Thankfully, that's changed even as far as the 90s, I suppose, when even titles like Aladdin, The Lion King, DuckTales, or GoldenEye appeared, and people were appreciative of the idea that there can be good licensed games. I think this is a place where tabletop games can still struggle occasionally. I think mostly due to the fact that a lot of people coming into the board gaming sphere's experience with licensed games tends to be one of the innumerable licensed Monopoly versions they've dealt with. I actually have a copy of Pokemon Sorry downstairs, and there have been a couple, misses over the years. I think that I may have played Pokemon Master Trainer when I was much younger, and still, to the life of me, cannot tell you how to play that game. But I do think that dismissing all of them as shovelware is kind of unfair to the wide variety of really cool titles that we've got doing a lot of cool things in the space now. So, as I mentioned, there's the Unmatched set, which not all of them are licensed. A fair number of them are public domain. So, Cobble and Fog is a little more public domain. The original set is more public domain. But they are adding other ones like the Buffy the Vampire Slayer set and the Jurassic Park set that has been released pretty recently. Now, on the, I'd say, more casual gamer side, so Unmatched, I put more of a strategic category, and then when I'm thinking more about nice ramp-up games or games that are accessible to more casual audiences, I think a lot about the Funkoverse titles. So my personal favorite, of course, is the Kool-Aid Man that's been released fairly recently. Very excited to try that one out. But Funkoverse, similar to Unmatched, is a light tabletop skirmish game where you play as different characters from different properties and you sort of fight it out. So if you've ever wanted to have the Kool-Aid Man fight Harry Potter, it's possible. Whether or not that's ideal, I think, is more up to fan fiction writers. So in the tabletop gaming space, there are several companies that I wouldn't say primarily specialize, but are well known for having a fair number of licensed titles coming out. 3 of them are The Op, Ravensburger, and IDW Games. So I've played a fair number of games from each of those companies, and I will say that they are doing, I think, a fairly good job adapting existing licenses over to interesting board game experiences. There are a few that I'm excited about and a few that I've played before. So, like, one, for instance, is... Oh, man, I forgot how heavy this one is. Big fan of the Kingdom Hearts series. Very excited to try Talisman once I find 3-ish hours. And I want to say a victim. I feel like at that point, if you're, like, surprising someone with a 3-hour board game, you are kind of inflicting something on them. But that's a conversation for another time, and whoever I happen to wrangle into it. Moving on to Ravensburger, I think Ravensburger has been adapting a fair number of games for a long time, but they've recently gotten a fair number of licenses from Disney, so you've probably heard of the Villainous series or the recent Marvel Villainous. One that I'm particularly excited about because I have a soft spot for the Back to the Future series, having mostly grown up watching that over and over again, is the Back to the Future Dice Through Time game. I've actually heard a fair number of good things about it, so I'm very much looking forward to trying it. If I had to pick my favorite out of the licensed games that I've had the opportunity to play, I'd probably pick this next one. So I have a lot of friends that are very big fans of the Avatar: The Last Airbender franchise, and given that they know that I'm a little casually into board games, they've asked me on a few occasions why there aren't more games based in that universe. I usually tell them that there's at least one, and I point to this one, The Legend of Korra Pro Bending Arena, also surprisingly heavy. A lot of weight games. But this one is a deck builder based in the Legend of Korra space. So you play as a 3-on-3 waterbender, earthbender, firebender, and you deck build different attacks and combos to try and push your opponents off the board. I think it does a really good job taking the existing license and adding well-known game mechanics to create a game that very nicely blends theme and gameplay together. I think it's a great experience. But what do y'all think? Are there any licensed titles that you're big fans of, or ones that you think that I've missed? If so, pop into the comments, let me know which ones you're thinking about, and I'd love to talk more about it. So let's bring on our guest tonight, Gates Dowd. Gates is currently the marketing and event coordinator for Leader Games, which on the marketing side means that she's probably been having a pretty good year given how successful Root and Fort have been, or at least as good of a year as anyone can have given the current circumstances. When she's not working in that role, she's also a tour de force within the community, advocating for better representation and helping up-and-coming content creators. She also plays a pretty mean Keyforge from what I've heard. A great friend of the show, insofar as anyone could be the friend of a show that hasn't launched yet, and a great friend overall, please help me welcome Gates Dowd to Late Night Table Talk. Hey Gates, thanks so much for joining me tonight. How's it going?
It's going good. Thank you, Eric. I'm really excited to be here.
Good. Glad to have you on. So the first thing that I usually do on this is just ask you sort of what you're working on now and what you've been up to.
Yeah, so what I've been working on, in terms of, I guess, Leader Games stuff, we are wrapping up on Oath. Fort is currently, pre-orders are delivering right now, and then the retail release date is September 21st, so that's big top of mind for me. But also we are always working on stuff that is in the background, and so I have a couple of projects, secret projects, I'm going to be pitching to the company here shortly. And then it's kind of been out there in the wild. There's going to be more Root content coming out. We just had Root Digital released through Direwolf. But once Oath is to the printers, Cole will start working on more Root. So I'm kind of helping out as much as possible, kind of plugging in the marketing cycle with that production timeline. As far as that, I want to say like personal stuff I'm working on, because I think that's a healthy like work-life balance, as I went hiking and camping this past weekend, which was very nice.
Yeah, we haven't been able to get outdoors that much given the fire.
Oh no. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Oh gosh. And
yeah, it's very much a conversation we're talking to friends, and they're like, "Well, at least we can get out of the house a bit," and I'm like,
"No."
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
I went out a couple days ago to drop off a game at a friend's house, and
yeah,
I looked directly at the sun for a little while because it wasn't bright. There was enough smog in the air.
Oh,
the sun was just sort of like a dim orange ring.
That you can look at it, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I remember thinking to myself, I am not wearing the right mask for these circumstances. Like, the current recommendation is to wear an N95 with a valve, yes, and then wear a cloth mask over top of it, since that'll work the right combination of protecting you from the virus and from the smog.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Jesus Christ.
It's been an adventure.
This is not this is the Mad Max world we're all living in. I'm gonna drink this slowly now. It's water, I promise, it's water.
Oh yeah, I forgot to make myself a drink. I'll probably do that during editing, which may not be a good idea, but we'll...
That will be the gin and tonic time.
Yeah. Just I apologize in advance for all weird jump cuts. I was drinking when I edited. That seems like a great pitch. Super family friendly.
Just have it leaking. Yeah, we didn't lead with that, like how this is water. We didn't get adult beverages for this.
Yeah, that's true. This is also water. I think just because I also wouldn't want to mess up like a Nalgene by putting a bunch of alcohol in it.
No.
These things are very difficult to clean. I actually had a whole
Yes.
thing. I don't know if I ever told you about this. I was trying to clean, not this one. I had a different one, and I could not figure out how to do it. And then I had a brilliant idea. So I put a bunch of dish soap on a sponge, and I just shoved it in there, and I shook it up with the sponge inside, and it got super clean. It was perfect. It was very clean, cleanest the bottle had ever been.
Yeah.
And then I thought a little bit more about it.
Uh-huh.
So about an hour and some needle nose pliers later, I managed to get the sponge out of the bottle.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, how big was the mouth of the bottle that you shoved it in? Oh, that buddy. Oh, okay.
Yeah, nope. I just remember thinking very specifically, yes.
Yep. But you got it clean, fam.
It was clean.
Yeah.
At what cost? I did end up buying one of those bottle cleaners off of Amazon. It's not much better for the purpose.
Yeah, I also looked into one of those, and then anything with a straw. And speaking about putting like alcohol, I remember in college one of my buddies like put alcohol in one of those Camelbacks.
Oh no!
And then I had a couple of sorority sisters that put wine. And by the way, like, don't like, even if you can get the bladder clean, you're not going to get the nozzle or the tube of it like clean.
You don't want to put anything sugary inside of anything that has that kind of tube, because it will just get junked up forever.
Yeah, and then bacteria. I mean, I guess if you want to like really build up the immune system, no, just don't.
No, that's nasty.
And that's advice for all you kids going back to college, Zoom University. That's your tips right now.
I feel like if someone gets drunk at Zoom University off of a Camelback full of wine and they happen to be watching a board game centric talk show,
just drop your glasses.
There's enough of those dominoes lining up that like it's really gonna work out for them. They're gonna be like, thank God I was here tonight doing this specific thing. You might be that person's hero, honestly.
Yeah.
Just eventually, you know?
You are. We're making this content very niche right now.
This is sort of how niche content works.
Yes. Okay. Now get back on the rails.
We were never going to be on the rails.
No.
So, this is sort of a question I get asked a lot, and I hate it. So now that I'm running my own talk show, I can ask everybody this question.
Yeah.
I'll change it up so the wording makes a little bit more sense. But, so what's Gates playing?
Unfortunately, not a lot.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, surprise COVID. A lot of stuff on TTS. Once again, surprise. I know we'll talk about later, but like Keyforge Mass Mutation released, which I was actually really lucky to even play games in person in a safe environment. Like all my friends and I got tested. We have like a 6-person pod that we like then pretty much rent this very clean room and go play Keyforge.
I like the idea of a bunch of people in an actual clean room though, and like hazmat suits with like, you know, the gloves.
I mean, it's very close to that, like with how like it's very there's a couple of game stories here who are running like pods and like they're doing everything sanitary and being like as 6 feet away from each other as possible, and it's like I understand I can't do Keyforge that way. So like that's like the game I played in person, and then we have the leader games, Bubble 2, like we only see each other. The only people I really see is leader games people if I do, and then my roommate. And we played 18 Chesapeake during Gen Con online together. So that was my first 18xx game. But other than that, there's a couple of games of like Power Grid and Concordia I have outstanding I need to get up and running, but other than that I haven't really been playing a lot. After this, probably the Root digital game, so I can get up on that. But yeah, that's what Gates has been playing. What about you, Eric? What's Eric playing?
Man, what did I... Oh, actually, I've mostly been playing Cascadia, so that's the flat-out title that's hitting Kickstarter soon. I just got Too Many Bones in today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember picking it up and being like, what is inside of this box? And then opening it and be like, oh, no, that scans. It was, like, a little heavy. What
Didn't you
else
get
have
a
I?
big haul of like
Oh yeah,
Japanese games?
yeah. So an order that I placed from Japan arrived soon. I haven't had a chance to play any of them yet. I'm
Yeah.
still waiting on English rules for a few of them. That's very much a eyes are bigger than your stomach sort of situation, where you
Yep.
buy a game and you're like, the English rules will eventually come out, and once they do,
You got
I'm
me.
gonna play this.
Yep.
And I have not yet played my copy of Natsumemo, but one day I will. Um, yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff there. I'm really excited to try. I'll probably be pushing out that content over the next indefinite period of time. Thankfully, this whole situation has shot my ability to plan long term in any stretch of
Yep.
the imagination. So I'm basically just like, if it's further in the future than 2 weeks, I have no concept of it.
In 2 weeks is even like a long runway too. Like
Yeah.
thinking of.
Oh, two
Yep.
weeks is generous. 2 weeks I've like
Yeah.
worked really hard to refine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to the next segment. So this segment, for new watchers slash new attendees, I've been loosely calling Game the Name. We're currently really deciding whether or not we're going to cut it because who knows how it's going to turn out.
Yeah.
Light improv. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to present you with the name to some game, and you're going to try and design a game around that. And
Oh,
I'll try to yes and off of you and see if we can build something up in about a 5 minute ish range.
yes.
All right.
Let's do it.
So here's my pitch. Gates.
Just gates.
Just gates.
Just gates. Oh Jesus. Oh man. Renegade already has Gates and Delirium. Like, God dang it. Somebody already stole my brand. Now you're just like, who are you in a game, Gates? Oh my God, is this therapy? This is therapy now. Oh, this is
I'll just tilt my chair back a little bit more. Hold on, let me see if I can find the right
how
lean.
how do you feel about yourself in components? I would be
Actually, this is the appropriate lean. I think I really got it.
yeah,
Yeah.
just like chest, like hands right here, then swirl the cock.
Yeah. Just curious.
What is that? I want not. I want like a highly interactive economic game.
Okay. So I was gonna say let's go mechanics first. It's usually a nice place to start. So high economy. What kind of market are we talking about here?
High economy. I want just pure. Oh,
What are we
say
buying and selling in this market?
I want to say cats, but that's not ethical. But that's
No,
still just on brand
super
with
not.
Gates. I'm just thinking about like what are Gates things here. Don't buy cats. Adopt, by the way. Shelters, foster if you can. Spay and neuter your animals.
That's actually the whole game.
that is actually yeah, that's the whole entire thing. What do we want to buy and sell here? God, everything. You know what? It all leads to capitalism, and I hate it all.
Just running your own high economic game about the Keyforge aftermarket.
That's just bad. That's just bad. Actually, does Millennium Blades have that? Now we're just going on ADHD brain. Does the Millennium Blades lean into the aftermarket portion of the trading game?
Yeah,
Oh.
you can buy and sell games in the aftermarket.
Why haven't I played this? Anyway,
I don't know.
You know what? Yeah. How about let's do this? Let's do buy and selling. Make this my job. Buy and selling board games, but based off a print run in demand, and then also like let's say you have a whole bunch of zombie games. This is literally part of my job with production.
So you're just gamifying your job. Okay.
I'm gamifying my job. Yeah, let's do that. Let's lean.
Okay. So it's a high economic game about working for a board game publisher and trying to essentially manage the economic system of game design comes in, multiple copies of a game go out.
Yeah. I feel like this is a Gates, you know this is a guild. God, that was a laptop. What is the Guildhova's game?
The Networks?
Networks. It's the Networks, but for like board game publishing, right? Because you have like the seasons, and as they
you've got seasons. Interesting. I was thinking about the games primarily as like distinct objects all on their own. You had to deal with like the extra things that come along with like board game publishing, right? So we're talking more like
you're doing the whole supply chain.
Yeah, I was thinking more supply chain stuff. So I was thinking like you're talking more like super friendly Kickstarter backers, and every single one of their comments like fills you with a lot of joy. And then that joy helps you work harder because you know that anything that you post as a Kickstarter update will be met with adulation and appreciation. People will all comment, I'm so excited about this recent delay because it means that I'll get to savor the moment more when the game finally arrives. Right? Stuff like that. I don't go on Kickstarter that much anymore, but I think that's
how Kickstarter works.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Every single person on Kickstarter is just like, wow, that's a real bummer about the port shipping delays, but I understand that supply chains are a complex part of the economic nature of producing board games.
Well, see, and this is why we're going to create the board game, so that way we can like communicate this a lot better.
Oh, okay. Actually, yeah, I'm into that. Like that makes sense. Actually, make a supply chain management board game so that people better understand how hard it is to manage the supply chain for board games.
Yes, and so when it comes down to shipping, no, and just the whole we're getting super meta here, but we started with the gates, which is meta in its own right. Yeah, I think we're
okay. So so gates then could be an acronym, right? So we're talking about like Kickstarter games. So
yes.
It could get all the exclusives shipped.
Oh. all the exclusives what?
Shipped.
Oh yeah. Jeez, what exclusives would be part of this game is more important.
Well, I mean, it's a Kickstarter, so it could be anything from signed prints by the artist to tickets to fly out and play the game with the designer to a
shrine with all of the Kickstarters like names on it.
Yeah, a version of
nowhere, Minnesota.
A version of the board game that's made out of a cake.
Yes. And I will eat it live. We'll just do mukbangs we're leaning real hard into the influencer culture. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the nice thing is every time we play this game, we always arrive at a point where I'm like, I think there might actually be a like game here.
Yeah.
If someone wanted to deal with like the really interesting microeconomic like subculture of talking about 10 or 15,000 print run items.
Yeah.
Because we're not talking about like economies of scale kicking in and 2 million copies of Sorry getting into every house, right? We're talking about like, oh man, we really crushed it on this print run. 10,000 of these bad boys are going to be shipping.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so interesting because now I'm thinking like, not to get too heady about it, but that's part of like, if you think of like food chain magnate, right? It's just, you think of, it's only a small part of the supply chain and such.
So a Splotter game about
yes, this is going to be published by Splotter. Splotter, listen to me now. You should make a game about publishing.
My favorite publisher.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I know that you dig the heavier stuff, Eric.
Yeah, I think I've seen a Splotter game before. Like I think I
You've been in the presence of one, for sure.
I think I've been around them.
Or one has been in the presence of you. That's how it should be.
I'm just like reared my head at a board game table. Like, is someone playing a Splotter title near me?
Yes.
We joke. My copy of Jagged Earth arrived. I like some heavy games.
Yes. Off on like a side note, I really like wanted to pitch this to you, since we're doing pitches. I really want a roguelike cooking game. Can somebody make me that, please? Make me a roguelike cooking game.
Yeah, that seems fun.
Right? I have scoured. I have looked everywhere. And I'm like, I even went to like the depths of like game designer forums where this has also been pitched, and people have done like, like their game jams and stuff around it, right. And like,
I got it. Call it Roguestaurant.
Go with it. We got this. We got this.
That's 2 games.
Yeah, we got 2 games here. One of them's more promising. The Roguestaurant is going to be way more promising than like the work-related one. But
I honestly think a lot of people would be very interested if you could like properly gamify the mechanics and show and like surface that out.
Oh, what was that game about, like, organizing your board game collection? It was, like, super
Oh,
niche, but,
yeah.
like,
Shelfie Stacker?
yeah,
Is that
Shelby
what?
Stacker.
Wow,
Yes.
wait. I was like, I heard about that through osmosis and I remembered it. Woo, brain.
Thanks
That's
for
that's how
Twitter.
I do
See?
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty much
Cool.
how I'm absorbing everything right now. I used to absorb everything through BGG. I was that person that like scoured and like downloaded BGG into their head, so I can then go to BGG Con and spout out these things. But now it's all just osmosis through board game
Yeah,
collection.
I have a bunch of like very specific facts just like rumbling around in my brain,
Yeah,
waiting for the worst possible time to come out.
yeah.
Like it'll happen at like work events. I'll be like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And someone will be like, how do you know that? And I'm like, I do not know how I know that.
Same.
I know it. I do not know how.
Yep. There's the 4 years I delved into League of Legends and I have very useless knowledge about League of Legends now. Anybody hit me up, I can help you out. Maybe
That's how it do sometimes.
make it useful.
Yeah. So speaking of Fort, I know that we've been talking a little bit about the tabletop simulator mod for it as well. How are things going on that end? How do you think that the tabletop simulator mod has affected Fort as a product? I know that there's
Um,
like a there's the one thing I've noticed from the reviewer side, right, is that there aren't a lot of new releases making it to tabletop simulator at the same time, which makes it
yeah.
hard for me to review. Fort really hit tabletop simulator before its formal retail push.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was always in the plan, because it was so crucial for Oath, I think, and during the Oath Kickstarter for us to have a print and play and a TTS, just to even be able to have something that's approachable other than just text and hearing us and hearing from reviewers, for you to experiencing it yourself. And that's the biggest touch point that we were able to interact with our community the most, is obviously by playing our games. And the sooner that I feel like we can get people on that ground level, the better. So like Oath leans itself to that very well. People have been able to go through the whole entire life cycle of Oath through the TTS. And so when we're approaching it now with Fort, really did not want it to happen before the pre-order, just because one, SPQF had already existed. This was our first direct-to-retail product, and we wanted to be able to really get out a good line of like other people's opinions, the teach plays and everything like that, and then just really be able to give you the opportunity to get everything. And then the last piece of that was getting that TTS that you can play. And the other thing is too, there is a downside to TTS that I'll be really transparent about. Is like it's not at all ever going to be the same as like having that game on the table. I was having an interesting conversation with another reviewer about this, but like the game, like we're making these games for the medium of in-person play, and so to put the TTS out there, I think before that pre-order would have also been a disservice. But we're still hitting it to, if that needs to be your last moment, like to interact there and interact with us, to ask questions, to ask rules questions to us before you make your purchasing decision,
Mm-hmm.
or for your gaming group, I want to put that resource out there as much as possible. And getting the TTS up and running, the guy who did our mod, which was Sky Jedi Luke Olson, who's a Minneapolis native that I had met through Keyforge, he had done a fantastic job, and it had made it as clean, and we had scripted it as much as possible to get that really good gameplay as much. And then also it was a great tool to use for reviewers, because you guys are busy. This is also a really weird time, so like busy to us is now different. So for me to be able to have like a mod that was in development to send out to you, Eric, and to other reviewers was, I think, very useful. That way you at least have like a good idea of the game, and then you can play it in person. So really it's been, I think TTS has been great all around. Just also knowing, going in there and playing it, once again, it's not the medium which we're playing in, but it's another great resource for you to explore the game in. So yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, so even though, to my great shame, I know very little about Root, I do have to ask a few leader-centric questions. So, talk me through it. Who's your favorite vast/mysterious manor character, and your favorite Root faction?
Okay. So let's see. I was a Crystal Caverns fan from the beginning, back in like 2016. So I played the Cave.
Yeah, I think the Cave is almost like, at least everyone I talk to is a big fan of the Cave, and this leads to the main problem we have with Vast, which is that everyone wants to play the Cave.
Yes. Well, and it's like, I think regardless of it being asymmetric, like when I was originally pitched it by my friend Jeremy, like he was like, you can play this, this, and this, and they all win differently, and also you can collapse and bury people alive, and I'm like, yes, that one. And played the Cave first, and fell in love with Vast Crystal Caverns, and then Mysterious Manor. I think the Paladin is really strong, and then I've grown into the Skeletons. The Paladin is very similar to the Knight, so it was really from Crystal Caverns, so it was really easy to get up and running. And then the Skeletons is just such a cute, interesting way to think, because you were trying to get out your army of skeletons. You start with 2, and then as you build up to getting more skeletons in your arsenal and you get items attached to them, like you have to be very careful which one gets hit and which one you attack with, because the order will change and reset, and so in which that's the order you use them in. And I think that just strategically is very interesting to me. There's so many root factions now. There's so many root factions now. I was an Eerie fan from the beginning, but now that I've played it more, it's the WA, the Woodland Alliance, and probably the Corvid Conspiracy, which is new from the Underworld expansion. I think are my favorite ones.
That's fair. I would probably lean Corvid myself if I had played more, just because there are a lot of Corvids outside of my home at all times. It's some creepy thing about the place where I live, and
being one with them.
Yeah, I feel like if they find out I'm not a fan, they're going to get angry.
Yeah, or maybe you're the Marquise, and they're trying to overthrow the house. Maybe we're in like a root game in real life.
It's possible.
I need to stop worrying so much.
And vacation.
Yeah.
So, I do imagine that you get a fair number of requests for various review copies from all sorts of folks.
Yep.
From the publisher side, how do you choose which creators you want to interact with or support, and what advice can you give to up-and-coming content creators or new people working in the board game space looking for either review copy support or sponsorship from publishers?
Yeah, no, this is a really good question, and if I can, I want to plug I was on a Gen Con panel with T and Rodney and Mandy and John, Lou, and a bunch of wonderful people that gave wonderful, very diverse perspectives about content creators and publishers and how to approach that, and just giving new advice to newer content creators, which that is on T or Tiff, who works for Haba. That's on their YouTube channel. So there's that, which is a really good resource. But yes, I get a lot of reviewers reaching out to me, especially now whenever we get a new game like Fort. And I actually have gotten the question being like, what are our qualifications? And I accept emails from everybody. And also there's the kind of obvious, like the unfortunate ones. There's some reviewers and locations in the world that like we've just had no luck shipping to. So there's that one. But honestly, we consider everybody. And there's not like you have to have so many subscribers or X, Y, and Z. If you were like a very brand new reviewer, like don't have a review, obviously I'm going to probably ask and prod a little bit more questions. But biggest advice too is like, if you have an idea, communicate that up front. Like if you don't want to review a game, but you're like, I want to produce this type of content for you, I want to do this live stream, or I think I can do this really cool like thematic unboxing thing, and then we can talk about sponsorship, which in that panel that I mentioned, we had really talked a lot about what's the difference between a review and what's the difference between sponsored content. And Eric, you and I have talked about this in extent about like what Kickstarter previews are and how that's different than a review, and how do you separate those. But yeah, big question. I'm trailing off a little bit here.
That's fine. I expected it to kind of, it's an expansive topic.
Yes, which we could talk about a bunch. But yeah, Did that get everything now, Eric?
Yeah, I think so. I think to follow up, we have been talking a lot, and even in the last question, we talked a lot about the publisher-content creator relationship.
Yep.
Is there advice that you can give to creators or even to other publishers on how to avoid sort of common pitfalls that you've seen or heard about in those relationships?
Yeah, I think going back to that, if you have an idea, communicate that up front. I think the biggest thing that has happened that has just been like due to like a miscommunication, because you kind of have to understand from like the side of the publishers. I get a good amount of requests for reviews every day, and I send out and I put people on my list to send out reviews. And if you wait to get your review copy and then you're like, oh, I have this idea for sponsored content, it's fine, we can work through it, but like if we can have that conversation more on the front end about like, hey, here's what this experience is going to be like, and this is how we're going to work together. That's just, I think, better for everybody, that we're on a good foot and on a good ground about like, this is what's going to happen to this copy of this game that I'm going to send out to you. Right. So yeah, communication is always really key. And then also the other thing is, don't be afraid, and this is still in the same vein of, don't be afraid to communicate that you need to move a deadline back. Personally, for me, I know there's some publishers who have like an embargo date. I have done that. We have done split embargoes like we did with Fort. So by all means, like if you can't hit a date, like we're all human. I think once you know something is off or wrong, and I want to respect a reviewer's time, because I know some of you aren't doing this full time or can't do this full time, just communicate. I think that was like the other thing too, because I have a running list. I keep track of everything and make sure that if we send out a review copy, we're sending it out on the good faith that you guys are going to play the game and at least review it in your most honest opinion, and stuff like that. So those are, I think, the two major pitfalls I probably see. Communication.
Yep, it's pretty core to a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can pivot off of the leader games stuff a little bit. Yeah. So asking you purely in your function as a human being and not asserting any insider knowledge about leader games plans, I do have to make sure that I put that disclaimer up front.
Yes.
We've talked a little bit about intellectual property, about licensed titles, and I mentioned that a little bit earlier in the show as well. If you could import some IP or some license into either Root or Vast and make them playable, what would you want to bring in?
Ooh, to like retheme in the, I think it would be a lot, I think it would be a lot easier to do for like Vast, because like if you could just do Goosebumps or something like that, I think that'd be super interesting. Of course, now we have like the Scooby-Doo Betrayal at House on the Hill out there in the world.
Very excited about that.
Yeah. Have you played yours? Now we're going to go.
No.
Okay. You got it though, right? You got it.
No, I just need to pick it up. I'm waiting for like October-ish, and then I'm going to get it for like spooky plans.
Spooky plans. Yeah, I'm trying to think, because whenever I approach this question about like what would I want in an IP to be in a Root world, it would have to be like Game of Thrones. But there's so many Games of Thrones board games.
Right.
Or even, no, I couldn't do. There's nothing. No, Name of the Wind wouldn't work. I think it would have to be like Game of Thrones, something that's like way more diplomatic. But the whole Game of Thrones IP is also fraught with so much just bad misogynistic stuff. So like, no. So yeah, it's really hard because they just uniquely stand on their own so well. And then my philosophy about IP games too is that like they need to stand alone. Right. Like that's what made Battlestar Galactica, I think, phenomenal in the way that it is like that game can stand on its own without BSG and still be such an amazing game.
I was a little disappointed you could not throw people out of the airlock though. My like general rule for space games is that if I'm going to play a game about space, I would like to either be able to throw offending parties out of the airlock, or I would like to be able to fly into the sun. So Soul Last Days of a Star lets you fly into the sun. So big fan of that.
Wins. Yeah,
absolutely. You can 100% just pilot your spaceship right into the sun for points.
Yeah. Well, also that's actually my fascination for sci-fi things. And so that's when I was like approaching this question too. I was like, what sci-fi universe do I want route to be in. But then I want it to be in Void Lich, and then we need to stop pulling out of Leader Games land. So.
See, I was gonna say, I'm thinking more like, I could see like a place where like the red wall, that red wall.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or even the DuckTales IP could be a lot of fun.
Oh, buddy. Yes. I remember there was a book about cats. I know this is very broad, but there was a book. Was it called Warriors? It was like a children's book series, and it was about these cats that were like this not stray cat. This cat ran away from home, got along with all the stray cats, and then it was like fighting and battling against the other like creatures in the woods and stuff like that. It was basically just the intro to Root almost.
You could actually import the Jellicle cats as a faction for Root.
Yeah. So really, I want this all just to be cats. The music. Which
Right.
That movie, that's another topic. That's for another podcast.
That's an entire lifetime of conversation.
That's a special Eric and Gates podcast for me.
Yeah. Could just bring in like the Garfield crew as a Root faction?
Yes. Yeah, we're actually just like Funko and Unmatched are doing. We're going to start throwing in. This is not at all happening at all ever.
Yeah, I'll make sure to just have a nice little disclaimer up that's like, these are not official. I said it at the beginning of the question. If someone's tuning in at this point, they'll at least catch us saying these are not official.
No, and I can just hear Kyle being like, "Hey, stop." Stop.
Kyle just sends me a nasty DM. It's just like, more Garfield? I'm like, more Garfield.
That's towards you. That is towards you. More Garfield. Lean in hard. Yeah.
There are not enough licensed Garfield board games. All I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like,
is there any?
Almost certainly. There has to be at least a like Garfield Monopoly or something.
Yes.
But I would say that there are probably not any modern board games that I could think of offhand with a Garfield theme.
Yeah.
And I'm currently fighting the urge to go look them up. I'm just
I was about to say, you and I were totally like natural in conversation. You and I would already be on BGG on our phones right now. I'm gonna look it up after the show. If I find something, put it as an annotation. This is a lot of restraint, guys.
I'm sitting very politely. I'm just like.
So yeah.
Okay, let's see here. So let's keep asking Gates the human questions rather than Gates the leader marketing and events coordinator questions.
Bernie the cat.
Let's talk a little bit more about conventions. So this one may be challenging. So I would normally ask what your favorite convention is, but if professional reasons make that difficult to answer, then perhaps instead saying, what do you think are elements that make up a great convention, both from a publisher perspective and from an attendee perspective?
Yeah. Well, I want to leave this professionally, just in case if like other small publishers are viewing this, or somebody who wants to get into publishing or viewing it. Each convention has its own like challenges or a different way to approach it. So I can't like have a favorite one. Like it's different going to PAX Unplugged than it is to going to Gen Con, and they're led up in different ways. And that's what makes it fun. That's what makes my job fun, because I do marketing and events. And so I get to incorporate that. But as an attendee, before all of Leader Games, it was BGG. It's my favorite convention. Like if I were to tell anybody on the street to go to a board game convention, go to BGG. It's so incredibly welcoming. Eric, that's where you and I met. Like before, like when I was just playing games, before I even worked.
Oh yeah, because we were that was where we bought a bunch of Keyforge decks, right?
The year before that, when we played Drop Mix.
Oh yeah.
With Frank, yeah. And the next year we bought a whole bunch of Keyforge, and then the year after that we roomed together. So.
And then this year.
Biasly.
This year. Whoops.
Yeah, Eric and I are just going to be on a long, like 4 or 5 day Skype call, trying to recreate watching My Hero Academia and eating chocolate, and walking down to the sketchiest store to get gin.
I remember that. That was probably the one of the sketchier experiences of my life. Yeah, the liquor store in question is maybe a 10-minute walk from the hotel. It's not under a bridge. I'm being unfair.
You have to
walk under a bridge to get there.
Yes.
It is right next to the jail. all in all, it was definitely, if there had been anything else nearby, that probably would have been a thing.
Yes, but the other thing is one, we have to be thankful that we at least have a liquor store to walk to, because the old BGG location at the airport, we didn't. We had to get expensive.
You want to buy a $20 chicken wing from the old hotel?
The old hotel, or get the parking passes. The other thing is too, is I remember we bought like New Amsterdam, right? We bought like New Amsterdam or a vodka or something like that. We didn't even open it. And I remember leaving, like you and I were both getting on planes. We didn't know what to do with this unopened, and we just didn't want to go this bottle of vodka or gin to go to waste. And so my friends Haley and Delton, I knew were from Oklahoma, and they were driving back up, and I literally ran up to them and was like, I'm leaving now, bye. Shoved like a bottle of liquor in their hands and just left. And I was like, at least it went to good use.
Indeed.
See, also, look at these BGG memories. But most importantly, the games that we play at BGG, I think it's just, you can, if you were in the main gaming hall, you can easily walk up to any table and strike up a conversation easily with anyone at BGG. And I just don't think you get that experience everywhere, especially at Gen Con or the busier conventions. It's just so chaotic and so sporadic and stuff like that. So yeah, I would say that's my favorite. What's your favorite?
That was tough. I think for me, they all have different like facets to them that I really like. So for instance, I really like OrcaCon, because OrcaCon I can get a lot of games played, and it's local, and it's within walking distance of Top Pot Donuts, and every year I get sick on donuts. Like that's the key insight there, is that I think the last like 2 years I have told Bebo, I'm gonna eat this entire box of donuts, and she's like, you're gonna make yourself sick, and I'm like, watch me, and then I get sick.
Yeah. Just watch.
It's a simple life, you know?
Yeah. That's the other unfortunate thing about conventions, is like OrcaCon was on the list. Eric, you and I were like, we have seriously planned down Tokyo Game Market. Like we have seriously talked about it.
Thankfully, this year I was able to bring Tokyo Game Market to me.
Yeah. Well, you do that every year.
Oh man, yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, remember our original stated plan last year was to go to Tokyo Game Market in March.
Yes, which would have been horrible.
Woof, that was not the move.
No.
We would have probably spent a lot of time in Japan.
Yes, which would we would have ended up, I don't know, making a more extended series. We would have had a podcast by now about us being in Japan. Yes, but yeah, so there's so many conventions. I still haven't gone to Essen. I still haven't gone to UK Games Expo. OrcaCon was on it. What is the convention that I went out to?
Oh, KublaCon.
KublaCon was good. I think it's those smaller conventions. Geekway to the West. Dang it, now I'm just going to say all my favorite things. Jenny's Ice Cream at Origins, by the way. For those missing Origins and Jenny's Ice Cream, go to your Whole Foods.
I had a great downtown hotel for Origins this year, and I was like, whoop.
Yeah.
I didn't actually get a hotel for Gen Con.
No, I was about to say, I remember you talking about Gen Con, because when I got Leader's hotel booking, I remember you messaged me like, yo, how? And so.
Oh man, I got ruined this year. My best options were worse than my worst hotel option at Gen Con.
Yeah. Yeah, Gen Con is tough. I think Boston's also really tough to get hotel for, because you're battling against the river or the water there in Boston, and where downtown is located and such. But yeah, everything I think has a pretty good highlight. Philadelphia has great food. Oh my gosh, best choice.
I was also pleased that I got a pretty good hotel in Philadelphia. So like, I think that I will say that my convention delight index is roughly keyed by the quality of the hotel I've been able to get.
Yes.
One year I was able to stay in an adjacent to Gen Con hotel, and that was the best Gen Con I had.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
that's absolutely. I think the conventions that you can either get a hotel right next to the con or have the convention in the hotel, like that, another reason why I love BGG. And like the hotel that BGG moved into, great, awesome.
It's like, a very nice hotel.
Yeah, it was definitely an upgrade. It was hard to get adjusted. Like I think I got adjusted on the last 2 days.
Right.
because I was so used to the old layout. But like, I think like our hotel room was awesome, and then it's great. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I really like that PAX Unplugged also has a press room. So for instance, like the problem
Yes.
with me is that in Philadelphia in December or November it is quite cold, so I have to wear like a fair number of layers given that I'm
Yep.
from California and
Not many
cold is
summers.
now 50 degrees. Um, so I have to wear a fair number of layers, right? But I don't want
Yeah.
to wear like a full coat and jacket and other jacket around the convention hall all day, so I could
Yep.
just store them inside of a locked thing inside the press room, and that's been super helpful.
Yeah. No, absolutely. The one, yeah, and the one that we're, I guess on the publisher side too, the one where I know that like every facet of that convention was thought about and considered about, and like here's just now that like I'll advocate for PAX is like I think that Penny Arcade and PAX and ReedPop have just gone through the line of like being able to consider how's this convention from the press's view, from the publisher's view, from the attendees' view, from every view, and they really catered to that. And I would say like if any of these conventions were to improve, it's to really look at every single one of that and having a good code of conduct in place for every single one of those um, people members that you were catering towards. So
Yeah,
there's
that is the
that.
tough thing is that like I think I was probably going to go to PAX
Mm-hmm.
this year instead of BGG, and I think that part of it
Yeah,
was
we
just
talked
that
about that.
PAX I just I only had a very small experience at PAX, but it was a very smooth one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think like the only one big complaint that I've really heard come out of PAX is the security line, which is really interesting because it's like, yes, I know that we don't want to wait in line and we want to get in there, we want to get there faster, but also the fact that they have security is amazing.
Yep.
um, so yeah, we can talk about conventions all day, but really
Oh,
like
absolutely.
recapping everything, I think all of them have pros and cons. But really, if you're focusing on playing games, go to the smaller conventions. If you're looking for like the newer and latest release, that's when you want to go to like your Origins, your Gen Cons, the bigger conventions overall.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Yeah, I completely agree.
yeah,
All right. So I was told by you that you wouldn't come on the show unless I asked you at least one My Hero Academia question.
yeah.
So, talk me through your favorite character. Why are they your favorite, and what do you suspect their favorite board game is?
Oh, hold on. Can I ask a question with it or answer your question with a question? Because
Sure.
who is my favorite character, Eric? Do you remember? I have a pin of him on my
Oh
right
man,
with him.
because my brain's just like, is
No,
it
it's still fun.
Kirishima?
No, 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 no. Todoroki. It's not
Oh,
icy
okay.
hot.
Oh
Icy
yeah,
hot
I'm
boy.
with it now. I was pretty
Yes.
close. I was like red hair.
Red hair. Yeah.
Like I,
Yes.
I was I
You
wasn't
were
doing
very
too
close.
bad.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Todoroki's really awesome. I think my favorites of anything is like because I had a connection with another person. So like the person who made me the pin, the Todoroki pin that I put on my quiver, is a friend of mine back in Tulsa, and we just like bonded over Todoroki. So Todoroki's
Right.
my favorite, and that's why. Um, what game would Todoroki play? Can I just say Netrunner because of ice? Can
I
I
mean,
just
I was gonna say ice cool, so I think that's fine.
Oh, okay. I also thought of Ice Cool, but no, I think Netrunner. Not only for the strategic and the chaoticness that can come out of Netrunner, but also Ice, and that was the first thing I thought about. So
No, no, I think that's perfectly reasonable.
yeah, same. There's my reasons. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, we're wrapping up, so why don't you tell people where they can find you online and find the stuff that you're working on online?
Yeah, you can find me anywhere on the internet with the handle Fenced In Gates. That's like a fenced in my name. I peaked out at the age of 13 when I made that username. And working on things like leader stuff. Of course, follow Leader Games on all social media platforms. And then, yeah, other than that, I think that's a good place to start. I'm helping out friends if I can plug any of them right now. I have a really good friend named Tyler Thrasher out in the Tulsa area. Him and I talk a bunch. I still have plugs out there, but he is a wonderful, very diverse creator that crystallizes dead stuff right now, and he's raising money for Black Lives Matter and also for the protesters out in the Pacific Northwest right now, and I think it's really important to lift up that more importantly right now too. And so I want to plug him, and that's Tyler Thrasher. But yeah, that's all the things I'm excited about that you can find out, and I'm always talking about all the cool stuff I'm excited about on Twitter too. So
awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah, thanks. We'll see you later.
Bye.
So that's everything we've got for you tonight. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Late Night Table Talk.